Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the RacingBet preview, looking at another week of the Brisbane Winter Carnival at Eagle Farm. It's Stradbroke Handicap Day, the biggest day of the Queensland racing calendar, the most prestigious race of their carnival. The Stradbroke Handicap also, along with the J.J.Atkins Plate on the card, as well as the Q22, the $1.2 million race for the first time, making it a blockbuster card at Eagle Farm this Saturday. Also got a solid card at Sandown Hillside, where Trent Crebbin will be taking us through his best bets on the card. And I'll be doing the same for Eagle Farm before we take a look at the weekend's two feature races. This episode is brought to you by betdeluxe.com.au. Serious betting for serious punters. If you are having a bet this weekend, make sure you jump on at Bet Deluxe. And we'll waste no more time and get straight into our best bets. Trent, how's things over there in Melbourne?
Yeah, look, not too bad. Coming into this a little bit down. We've had a couple of bad results at Swan Hill early in the day, a bit of mixed luck there. So yeah, look, we'll try and bounce back a little bit later and move on to tomorrow, where I think we found a bit of value at Sandown, which could look to be on a bit of a wet deck there.
I'm sure you'll bounce back. I had an absolute shocker at Belmont on Wednesday, complete strip out, and then my most confident bet of the day got loose behind the barriers, tried to jump a fence, ended up on its back in a bush, and was obviously scratched. So kind of summed up my day there at Belmont on Wednesday, but managed to fight back and get a little bit back in Hong Kong on Wednesday night. So I'm sure you'll roll with the punches, mate, and I'm sure you'll get back to winning ways at Sandown on Saturday for the punters. What do you make of the card overall? Yeah, as you said, wet deck, currently a heavy 8. Where do you reckon that track will end up?
Yeah, it's heavy 8 now. I think the track manager said we might get into the soft range if there's no more rain. So yeah, I think we'll probably be around that soft 7, maybe heavy 8 range if we do get a little bit of rain that's forecast on the day. Probably looks to be maybe on speed early, and they'll probably get wider as the day goes on. And I think there's a few wet trackers here at big odds that the market might have missed. So hopefully we can find a couple there.
Yeah, over at Eagle Farm, it will be anything but wet. We'll be playing on a firm track, good 4 currently. Really good betting card overall in Brisbane, I think. I think we're betting into all 9 races once again this weekend. And from race 1 to race 9, I think there's plenty of value on the card, plenty of good betting opportunities, and a lot of really good races to look forward to. As I said, headlined by the Group 1 Stradbroke Handicap and the Group 1 J.J.Atkins Plate. Deep into the Winter Carnival now. Looking forward to it, and hopefully a couple of winners on the card. It won't take many winners, I don't think, to find ourselves in front there. We'll start off with my best bets in Brisbane this week, Trent, and then we'll get over to you at Sandown and come back to me for the Group 1s. I've copped a little bit of flack this morning for making this my best bet of the day, and I've made it a 5-unit max bet. This is race 3, number 2, Ayrton at Eagle Farm on Saturday. Currently $1.80. And I'll take you through my reasoning as to why I've made this a maximum bet. Plain and simple, and it'll be interesting to get your thoughts on this as well, because I think a lot of people can think when horses are odds on that value doesn't exist, and that value simply means a horse basically that's double figures, which I don't really subscribe to that theory. The way I see it is that I think Ayrton will be winning. I think $1.80 is over the odds, and therefore I'm unloading a maximum bet on it. I think it should be shorter. Obviously won its first 3 starts, won super impressively first up in Melbourne, came to Brisbane last start where it was $1.65 into $1.50 at the jump. He was a little bit disappointed. Well, you'd have to say he was disappointed because he didn't win. Went down 0.2 lengths to Apache Chase, who of course lines up in the Stradbroke Handicap later on the card. But listening to Mick Price talk about this horse, he basically said he was a little bit dumb. I think he's going to take heaps of improvement off that run. Like, we've got to keep in mind that he's still a fairly inexperienced horse. He's only had 4 career starts. That was his first time travelling outside of Melbourne, his first time going the clockwise direction of running. So I'm expecting him to take really significant improvement out of that run. Gets James McDonald booked to ride, of course, had Jamie Carr on last start and was given a gun ride. So there's nothing lost, nothing gained with J-Mac going on, but draws barrier 1. I think he'll improve from that experience, and I think he's just the best horse in the race. The second favourite in the race is Ellsberg, who I think's more than suspect and short enough at $4. So when I assess this market and when I assess the chances of Ayrton, $1.80 to me looks over the odds, especially given he started $1.50 last start. And I think if he turns up, he'll win. So for that reason, I've made him my best bet on the card. I've made him a maximum 5-unit bet. And I think he'll be getting the job done. What do you think with that? Because, as I said, I think there's still value can be found. I mean, there's every case to be argued that Zaki's $1.50 and value at that price. I mean, does Zaki win more than 67% of the time? Probably. So if you look at it that way, $1.50 could be over the odds there.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think I put out a similar tweet earlier. You think about $1.80 is about a 55% chance of winning. Does Ayrton win, more than 55% of the time? I'd argue that he does, definitely. So, I think that $1.80 is actually value, and it's just, depending on whether you've got the bank and the staking to do it right. If you're able to kind of do that with the bank that you have, then I think there's no reason not to label something as value, even if it is odds on. So, look, I'm perfectly happy with $1.88, and I think he should be shorter as well. And I think you'll be winning as well.
Yep. So make of it what you will there, but that's my best bet of the day at Eagle Farm. We'll move on to something at a bit better price. And this is my best value bet of the day. It comes up in race number 6, and I'm going to be backing 2 horses here. The first is horse number 4, King of Hastings, currently $8.50. And the second is horse number 7, In Good Time, currently $26. I thought this was a terrific race, like a really fantastic race. I could make a case for half a dozen of the runners here. And it's a race I think is packed full of value because I'll be taking on the favourite, which is Garibaldi at about $2.80 at the moment. I know it probably finds a slightly easier race than what it contested last start, but I thought it had its chance last start, and I thought it was well and truly short enough at that price, given that there's a whole host of other horses in this race that I think can win. The horse I've got on top is King of Hastings. This horse went into my horses to follow file after his first up run 3 weeks ago. He was $9 into $7 that day. He sat 3 and 4 wide the trip with no cover, and he dropped out to finish third last. It's hard to follow a horse on that sort of performance, but I actually thought his run wasn't too bad. And what I said in my horses to follow report was that this horse always improves second up from a spell. You've just got to look at his record when he's second up. He's had 4 starts for 2 wins and 2 second placings. Gets out to 1,200 metres now, which is his best distance. 4 of his 5 career wins have come at this distance. Draws ideally in barrier 2, gets Jim Byrne on, and has won a trial since his last start. So basically, as I alluded to in that horses to follow report, everything has lined up as I suspected it might, and we're getting a good enough price today to back him in once again. So happy to take $8.50 about King of Hastings. The other horse that I thought was over the odds was number 7, In Good Time, which is probably close enough to, if not, the rank outsider in the field. Currently $26 chance. I thought her first up run in the Helen Coghlan behind Exhilarates was really good, full of merit. First up, started 80-1, was caught 3 and 4 wide the trip, no cover, battled on to be beaten a length and 3/4, finished midfield in 7th. I thought that was a really solid effort. She's got a good second up record, 2 wins from 5 starts, and she actually won on this exact day last year, should I say, where she won, what race was it? The listed Ascot Handicap over 1,200 metres, same sort of track and distance as what she lines up on today. So I think everything's kind of aligned to her running well here again. Draws well, barrier 4, Ronnie Stewart booked a ride, 54 kilos. Yeah, I just thought, off a similar kind of lead up to what she won on this day last year, I thought she was well and truly over the odds at $26 after a run first up that was full of merit. Really good race. Could make a case, as I said, for the likes of Blaise Jowski, away game I could make a case for, and of course GTT, who were on last start. But yeah, sticking fat with King of Hastings and In Good Time, $8.50 and $26 as my best value bets of the day at Eagle Farm. Trent, we'll go over to you at Sandown Hillside, pretty stock standard winter card, and you're waiting till the lucky last to make your best bet of the day, race 9, number 12, Zipping Boy, coming off back-to-back wins, and he's a $6.50 chance here, so plenty of value for your best bet this week.
Yeah, I think this race sets up really well for Zipping Boy. He won over this track and distance last start, which I think is a bit of a key here, because I think a lot of the horses in this race aren't exactly suited at 1,000 metres. Quite a few of them are better, probably up to 1,200 or 1,100 even. So I think he gets in really well here. He gets in with 52 kilos, so he drops 7.5 kilos from last start. Thought he made his run was really good there because he made his run kind of through the inferior ground on the inside where everything else was coming wide. He's 2 from 2 on heavy track, so the ground will be no issue. Gets a really good map here from barrier 3, probably just behind the leaders, and I thought he'd be able to going to use that lightweight and just skip away from a really handy spot where, a few of these might be just looking for a bit further and he might be able to put a bit of a break on them coming around the turn. So thought the 650 about Zipping Boy was a really good price. In a kind of open meeting, I thought he was probably the one that I was most keen to back on the day, despite not being one of the shortest favourites on the day.
Yep, like it. Love it when you tip these sorts of horses. You're ambitious, and probably more times than not it comes off. Take me through your thoughts on number one, Great Again. I really like the setup of this horse. Probably would have preferred him over 1,200 metres, but he races over 1,000 metres here for the first time in his career, but he's got a terrific second up record, 5 starts, 2 wins, 2 second placings. His record on wet tracks is absolutely phenomenal. He's had 13 starts on wet ground for 7 wins and 4 second placings. Comes off a good run in the Wangoom, gets Carleen Heffel booked to ride barrier 1. Take me through your thoughts on him.
Yeah, he's definitely a clear danger, and he's kind of a horse I had to follow because I backed him in the Wangoom, and I thought he was a bit unlucky there. He was caught wide. They've scratched him a few times here, just waiting for a wetter track, and they found one here. It's just 1,000 meters is probably the query for me. He's also had 5 weeks off. Maybe that's not a bad thing, dropping back to a sharper trip. Colin Heffelon, who's riding quite well, but barrier 1, they've kind of opted for the claim rather than use the senior jockey. I'm just not sure about him. Like, he's kind of hasn't won for a while now, and it seems a little bit of a strange race for him to be in, but I could definitely make the case for him, and he's probably about his right price, and I wouldn't knock anyone picking him just because of that record on wet tracks. But I was kind of happy enough to play against him at 1,000 meters, and hopefully Zipping Boy can kind of just put him in a pocket from barrier 3 and skip away.
Okay, so Trent's best bet of the day there, race 9, number 12 at Sandown, Zipping Boy, $6.50. We'll get on to your best value bet of the day. You're playing 2 horses in race 8, which is obviously the race immediately before your best bet. You're with horse number 10, Cigalis, and horse number 18, Sir Galahad. I think Cigalis is $6.50. Sir Galahad's $21 across the board. Cigalis gone from Sydney to Brisbane, now to Melbourne.
Yeah, I think it's really good placement here by the Godolphin team. Obviously, with such a big stable, they can afford to get their horses pretty much wherever they want them to go. I just think this horse has had no luck its last few starts. It started $9 against Axe and was beaten, 8, 9 lengths last start. But if you look at the replay, it was 4 and 5 wide the trip, never really had cover, and understandably dropped out. And Axe beat most of the field by about 4 lengths. I think it was your best of the day there as well. So,
God bless
look,
him.
I'm happy to forgive that. Yeah, it was a good win. Happy to forgive that one. The start before, she was only 4 and a bit lengths off Lost and Running, who, is being touted as the next big Everest horse, and it was wide there as well. So I think that's a really respectable run. Really likes wet tracks, this horse. She's, I think, never missed a place from 4 starts on heavy tracks. Barrier 11 probably gets back in the field, but Mark Zahra is riding very, very well. He's probably the most informed jockey in Melbourne at the moment. So I think she gets in really well here and is due for a change of luck. I thought the $6.50 or so was a decent price. And then Sir Galahad down the bottom, who's just made the field with a couple of scratchings. We're on him first up at Cranbourne, and he just got run down at a big price. Then last start, he copped a lot of pressure for the front at Ballarat with 62 kilos. It was basically a line of 5 vying for the lead. And I thought he actually stuck on quite well, only beaten 2.8 lengths. That was on a heavy track. He drops a lot in the weights here. He gets down to 51.5 kilos. So drops over 10 kilos in the weights. Barrier 2, again, Carleen Heffel here, and he's probably going to go straight to the front. And there's another that really likes wet tracks again. So I thought he would definitely give them something to catch, and he's going to be in this for a long way at $21.
Okay, race 8, number 10, Cigalis, and number 18, Sir Galahad. Trent's best value bet of the day at Sandown. Okay, back over to Eagle Farm. Let's take a look at these 2 Group 1s, Trent. We've got the J.J.Atkins Plate and, of course, the Stradbroke Handicap. We'll start with the 2-year-old feature, the J.J.Atkins. I found this race fairly hard to work out, and it wasn't a race I was overly keen to bet into, to be honest. I could make a case for a few horses, but nothing really stuck out. I think the 2 horses that anyone with a set of eyeballs wanted to follow out of that size produce was Converge and Port Louis. Those were the 2 horses that went in my horses to follow report. And obviously they come up, I think, favourite and second favourite here. I think Converge is the favourite at $3.50. I do concede he's probably the horse to beat, but I just couldn't get him that short in the market at $3.50. It was interesting to see them riding back in that size produce from the wide barrier. This is a horse that we've seen land on speed as is typical of the Gay Waterhouse and Adrian Bott stable throughout his career. But they went back from the wide barrier and he hit the line with force, didn't he? He was held up badly at the top of the straight. And when he got out, he sprouted wings to be beaten 0.2 lengths by Tiger of Malay. Clearly the run of the race, clearly the horse you probably wanted to be with out of that race. But as I said, I struggled to get him 350. If he had to come up $4.50 or $5, I would have been keen. But struggled to tip him confidently at that price. I've actually gone the other way with Port Louis, who, as I said, was the other horse that I made mention of to follow out of that race. I thought his run was good. He was 5 weeks between runs. This is a horse that was sensationally backed in the Group 1 Champagne Stakes in Sydney from $34 into $5. And, there's a fair case to be made that he was pretty unlucky on that occasion. He settled last, was held up for, a large part of the straight, was struggling to get clear running and hit the line really well when he did. I thought his run in the size produce was good. It was definitely a pass mark, and I think he'll improve quite a bit out of that. Up to 1,600 metres is ideal. As I said, he was 5 weeks between runs there, so I assume he'll come on quite a bit from that run. Bowman Sticks, just need a good ride from the wide barrier 13 here. But I think if they ride him cold, save him up for one big final burst, getting up to the mile, I think he can be the horse that sails home over the top. So just leaning to him at the prices. I'd rather take $5 about him than $3.50 about Converge, albeit I do concede that Converge gets the better barrier draw and the better position in running. So, yeah, they're the two that were quite obvious. Tiger of Malay, he was, of course, the horse that bounced back to win the size produce after a dead ordinary run first up in Sydney. I've got a theory that this horse doesn't like wet tracks. If you look, I know he's won on a soft track before, but if you look at his best runs, they've actually both come on good ground. In the Pago, where he ran second, beaten a nose behind Shakiro, he sat, I think, wide throughout in that run. It was a terrific effort. And then obviously his victory in the size produce last up. Both of those runs were on good tracks, and all of his failures have come on soft ground. So he's going to get a firm track here. Barrier 11 makes things slightly tricky. But yeah, I think he gets conditions to suit, and you'd have to consider him a live chance on the back of that victory last start. And then outside of that, I really kind of struggle to make a case for anything. But when Waller has 3 runners in these sorts of races, you can never dismiss him. And I thought the best chance of his trio was probably Giannis. Looks to have been set for this race all along. Comes in here, third up to the mile. Probably improved from his first run to his second run. And yeah, just looks set to peak here. Third up in his grand final. Anyway, Port Louis on top for me in the J.J.Atkins. Trent, what about you?
Yeah, I probably found it tough to split the two obvious ones as well. I'm pretty confident one of Converge or Port Louis will win. I'm probably just leaning to Converge just because of that barrier. And he probably can race a bit handier, although he ran so well last start coming from last that maybe they do take him a bit of a sit again and try and sit midfield or something. So look, it just depends who probably gets the better run, and I'm just leaning to Converge off that. But at $3.50 and $5, you could almost back one and save on the other, or something along those lines, and I'd be pretty confident one of them wins. So yeah, no real preference between the two of them, but I think one will win.
Yeah, and to give you an indication of just how much I don't necessarily, or my lack of confidence here. Like I've only staked 0.5 units on Port Louis here compared to, I know I said Ayrton is my max bet at 5 units, but I've got a number of bets throughout the day which I've staked greater than 0.5 units. So yeah, I'll be back in Port Louis to win, but only betting small. Looks a tricky race to work out. And I'm sure Port Louis will go close. It's just whether if he finds one or two better. Okay, we'll move on to the Stradbroke Handicap. The day's feature, as I said, Queensland's most prestigious race. Probably the feature of the carnival. And it's a race that I'm actually significantly more, keen to get involved in than the other Group 1 on the card. Worth noting here in the Stradbroke, 5 of the past 8 winners have drawn wider than barrier 13. So makes me slightly more happy given that the 2 horses I'm backing are both drawn out there wide. I said after his run in the Doomben 10,000, how far Wild Planet in the Stradbroke, and I'm sticking fat here with him. I think $8.50 or $9 about this horse is a terrific bet. He looked to be paddling in the 10,000. I was on him at 50 to 1 that day. Top of the turn, your tickets were confetti. He was going backwards under the stick. then the final 200, he just got a second win, really picked up and surged to the line to be beaten, I think, 0.4 lengths or 0.2 lengths by Eduardo, who, of course, led throughout on that occasion. I know the race was somewhat set up for the backmarkers in that race, but I thought his run was outstanding, given that leading into the race, I said he's not a 1,200 metre horse. He's probably not a first-up horse. He's going to improve out of sight, getting up to 1,400 metres second up from a spell, which is exactly what he does here in the Stradbroke. Comes up with a wide barrier draw, just praying that Tommy Berry gives him a good ride and doesn't ride him like Chautauqua. But I think, yeah, like, as I said, 5 of the past 8 winners have drawn barrier 13 or wider. So despite the fact he comes up with barrier 15 here, not too worried about that. Hopefully there's a good enough tempo to kind of set it up for him here. And he won second up last preparation. I think this is a wide open field, no real standouts. And yeah, I expect him to be right in amongst the finish there at $8.50 or $9. I think he's a good bet. Number 7, Wild Planet. The other horse I'm on, and this is the other horse I actually followed out of his last start. Both of these horses, Wild Planet and Nicanova, was the other one that I put down as horses to follow. I know he ran, I think, 10th last start, and you know, his run would have appeared somewhat plain, but this horse sat 3 and 4 wide, no cover of the trip at the back of the field, had to loop them. And I thought his effort to stick on and be beaten 1.9 lengths was full of merit. I thought it was a really good run. I think this horse is absolutely flying. Prior to that, I think first up he won, beating Vega One, who of course then came out and won the Kingsford Smith Cup. Let's not forget that Nicanova ran in this race last year and was beaten 0.4 lengths in third. So he carried, I think, 53.5 kilos last year, carries 54 kilos this year, draws wide, as I said, needs a little bit of luck, but not too perturbed by that. I think he's flying, this horse. I think he's a red hot chance here, and I think $18 is way over the odds. So those are the 2 horses I'll be playing in the Stradbroke, Wild Planet and Nicanova. Could make cases for the likes of Vega One, the Harrovian, of course, their obvious chances coming out of their last starts. Subpoenaed gets in very light. She's probably the best of the fillies or the mares down at the bottom of the weights. And Trent, I know you're praying that Amish Boy gets a run. He's currently the first emergency. This is a horse I've been banging on about for about the last 6 weeks as a horse to follow. I think he's absolutely flying. Currently doesn't have a run, but if he does, I'm sure I'll be having something on.
Yeah, I haven't really come along with Amish Boy for most of his career. He does a bit of racing in Melbourne as well, and I've always just thought he's a little bit below. And you know, his run 2 back was, you know, he didn't have a lot of luck, and then last start was the one that really kind of jumped off the page in the Fred Best, where you know he was only 0.3 lengths off Apache Chase, who was, you know, leading all the way. He came from a mile back. I think there's a few people praying he gets a run here because he's about $18, $21 or so. And that just looks a big price for a horse down in the weights, 50 kilos, who draws better. So yeah, really hoping he gets a run, Amish Boy, and I'll be on him if he does. Otherwise, I might just follow you in there because I found this very tough.
Yeah, I kind of hope he does get a run, but I kind of hope he doesn't because I'm pretty well set on the other 2. But yeah, that's how I've seen the Stradbroke Handicap. Wild Planet on top for me, Nicanova, the value at $18. Pretty keen on both of them, and they're the 2 that I've backed. Trent, any other thoughts on either of the cards at Sandown or Eagle Farm?
No, I think he just in an earlier race, I think you had a tip for Delphi on top, an international stayer that's come in. I reckon he might be, I think, just looking very, very far down into the spring, he might be my Melbourne Cup horse this far out. I hope he runs well.
Gee, it's a big call this far out. You're right, but as I said, I like when you make these. Yeah, I like when you make these big calls, and you're pretty close most of the time. Yeah, he comes up in race number 2. I've got Mr. Seawolf and Delphi as my selections in that race. He gets the blinkers on for the first time. Like, this is a horse that I think won his maiden in Ireland over 1,600 metres and then won his final start over 2,800 metres. So you're probably right. There's bigger and loftier things in store for him, I think. Resuming first up over 1,600 metres is the query, but they go with the blinkers first time. I think listening to Sam Friedman on radio, he said, you know, he's probably, we're hoping he's fit enough. It wasn't necessarily like we've got him bang on, he's ready to go. It was kind of like we're hopeful that we've got him forward enough. It can kind of be hard to tell, but I thought a lot of these horses kind of just turn up and keep going around and round and round. And if he was anything good, he'd be more than competitive in a race like this. So yeah, nice little subplot to the day at Eagle Farm there. Okay, that'll round us out for this week. As I said, thanks to Bet Deluxe for sponsoring this week's show. We'll have What have we got this weekend, Trent? We've got Eagle Farm, Sandown, Randwick and Belmont, all up on racingbet.com.au. There's plenty happening, and hopefully another weekend full of winners. We'll be back to do it all again next week, and the following week after that, I think, rounds out the Brisbane winter. So just a couple of weeks left to go, but hopefully we can keep posting a profit.